Proper feeding is essential in the life of every human being, and this means getting the required amount of food needed for the body to function properly on a daily basis from the different classes of foods like carbohydrates, proteins, fats and oils, minerals, and so on. To have food security, a school of thought believes that every nation must be able to provide variety of foods in sufficient quantity and quality at all times and have a reserve to fall back on in times of drought. But scientists in food production research and management have a different view. According to them, in spite of an abundance of harvest, feeding and storage for the future, a nation can still be hungry. Basically, human beings need two classes of nutrients, micro and macro, from the food that they eat. These two classes are very important for body development and function. In this part of the world, we depend mainly on carbohydrates like cassava, yam, maize, sorghum, etc. Whereas essential nutrients like vitamin A, iron, and zinc are not readily available in these variety of crops. Therefore, if our people, most especially the rural dwellers, are to be considered food secured, science must be brought to bear on the species of crops to be cultivated for their consumption for proper growth, otherwise they will suffer a phenomenon food researchers have described as hidden hunger.
We all need two classes of nutrients, the macronutrients and the micronutrients. Both classes are very, very important. If you're looking at macronutrients, that's when you look at your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. But then frequently, even when we eat these three key nutrients and we think we've eaten so well, we realize that the body still craves for additional nutrients. And this is why we call these other nutrients, or the fact that you don't have them and the body needs them, we term it to be hidden hunger.
On Food Today this week, our focus is on vitamin A fortified cassava. Harvest Plus, a better nutrition, better health organization, is working with IITA, NCRI, and the Nigerian government to provide a better cassava crop, one with a very high yield and vitamin A fortified, targeting one farmer at a time in different locations in Nigeria. The dissemination of the pro-vitamin A cassava varieties was flagged off in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State in July 2013 by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. That program marked the beginning in Nigeria of the harvesting of many years of research work carried out by Harvest Plus, IITA, NCRI, and other research institutes across the globe regarding food supply and nutrient intake of citizens on a continent by continent basis. It was in the process of these works carried out over time that the discovery was made that Africa, about half of Asia, and some Latin American countries were on top of the micronutrient deficient continents of the world.
Nigeria today is used as a hub in West Africa. Democratic Republic of Congo is used as a hub in Central Africa. And so is Zambia in Southern Africa and Rwanda in Eastern Africa. And the whole idea is that if we're able to show, working on cassava in Nigeria, that we can improve the health, the livelihood of the vulnerable using biofortified crops, then it becomes easy for us to scale out to other countries in the region. So our strategy is to ensure that we don't thin ourselves out. We don't want to be seen covering the whole continent, and yet you cannot see evidence of what we are doing. So we are putting the bulk of the resources that we've got in the hubs that we have at the moment, and ensuring that within the next 2 years we make very strong impacts there, which can then become scalable. If you look at the challenge of making crops a lot more nutritious, it goes through a complete value chain process, because we are looking at the real breeding work itself, right? Getting the vitamins into the crops. Then we look at multiplication, and then the dissemination of these varieties, and then ensuring now that people accept and consume it. Because unless they consume these crops, then the impact will not be seen. So our strategy takes care of all the key stakeholders in that value chain.
The federal government of Nigeria, faced with these realities in 2012, made a recommendation which later became a law that all companies producing wheat flour, sugar, vegetable oil, etc., must fortify their products with vitamin A. It also became a law around this time that children in Nigeria should be given vitamin A supplements twice a year in the hospitals. These measures were taken to arrest the critical situation observed by health experts and food production researchers, but for the fight against micronutrient deficiency to be won, a naturally sustainable source of vitamin A and other micronutrients must be found. Hence, the vitamin A fortified cassava varieties. Over 80 million Nigerians live in difficult to access rural settings. Vitamin A supplements at the hospitals do not reach them. Fortified processed foods like wheat flour, sugar, and vegetable oil probably gets to them during the Christian, Muslim, or other festivals when their kinfolks travel to the villages with some parcels of these products for the celebrations. Otherwise, they consume what they produce on their farms. This is where vitamin A fortified cassava comes handy. Experts say it contains a special blend of beta-carotene, better than the one found in carrots, and is easily absorbed by the human body.
Vitamin A cassava is a nutritionally enhanced cassava as opposed to the usual white cassava roots that we know of. And with this one, we have bred it to increase the vitamin A levels so that it's for health purposes. You eat and you are sure you are going to get vitamin A nutrients from the cassava. We know cassava is a food security crop, number one. But now we are maybe going further and looking at health security, because we are not only providing staple food, but we're looking at a situation where at the end of it, their health would also be secured. Cassava is a drought tolerant crop, so if we have very little food even, and we are sure of the nutritional content, then we are way up in our expectations. I must say that like any other cassava crop that we talk about, it is a food security crop, but to go beyond that is a health security crop.
You can imagine what the problem of lack of vitamin A is generally to Africa. The problem of blindness, the problem among pregnant women, the problem among young children, and you can imagine how much cassava is consumed by Africans. So if you could have a dosage of 30 grams of cassava per day, you can imagine how much vitamin A will have been imbibed by these families. So the essence is this: if there could be a way in which you can improve the diet, you can fortify it with vitamin A, and the low-level communities, the African communities who consume cassava a lot, will in a way have consumed this vitamin A. So it is in a way to aid the diet and in a way to help okay, improve the diet of the populace, particularly the African children and the pregnant women.
Besides, making crops produce their micronutrients and increase access to these crops will hasten the end of micronutrient deficiency in the vulnerable communities in the country.
Protein in this leaf, the leaf, vitamin A cassava leaves, is equivalent to the protein you find in an egg. And these are communities that are actually, they have not been able to benefit from various fortification that has taken place. So this is the particular point in time where agric and net mix together to meet the needs of the rural dwellers who cannot afford egg nor buy bread. In fact, bread in my village is a luxury.
We have been eating the leaf of the plant in melon soup. We observe that when we eat it, there is no need to buy paracetamol because body pain will reduce and one will sleep well. Even the pregnant women, if they eat the leaf of the plant, they don't need to buy any vitamin A drugs from pharmacists as they deliver safely without complications.
Nigeria is used as a hub by the researchers in West Africa, DRC Congo in Central Africa, Zambia in Southern Africa, and Rwanda in Eastern Africa. Harvest Plus via IITA in Nigeria is working with partners including the federal and some state governments in looking at the challenge of making crops more nutritious, going through a complete value chain process.
The state is involved in vitamin A cassava project because we see the importance of the cassava, being that vitamin A is included in the cassava. Vitamin A is very vital to the growth of the children, in particular at the age of 0 to 5. If they are able to get the vitamin A cassava in their diet, it will help them to develop their IQ.
The synergy is also to develop models in the current hubs to solve the problem of micronutrient deficiency and improve the health of the vulnerable populace using biofortified crops. This exercise, according to experts, makes it easy to scale other countries in the region. IITA and NCRI developed the first batch of vitamin A fortified cassava with about 8 micrograms of beta-carotene. The next batch are expected between December 2013 and 2014. Although efforts have been made to biofortify yam, it has not been as successful as the project on cassava. Currently, efforts are ongoing on the improvement of plantain and banana in Nigeria, beans in Rwanda, maize in Zambia, and sweet potato in Uganda.
In the area of biofortifying the major staple crops that our households consume, right? We acknowledge the fact that yams are very, very important. We know sweet potatoes are there. We know plantains and bananas and a whole host of others. Now, but there's no way we can handle all of them at the same time. So if you remember our motto, one farmer at a time, one crop at a time, right? Now we have focused on cassava, we've made very good impact. Not impact per se, but at least we've been able to develop cassava varieties that have pretty high levels of vitamin A. We've done the same for maize, the same for beans, the same for rice and for pearl millet. I think now we are beginning to focus on these other crops that you mentioned. There is some attention today on yam. There is some attention on plantains and banana. Over time, in the years to come, it will be nice that every staple crop becomes more nutritious. That is one way we think we can contribute to health status globally.
The vitamin A cassava in Nigeria are not genetically modified. The plant yields 35 to 40 tons per hectare, and it has provided a lot of jobs for Nigerians across the board. For example, in planting, harvesting, processing, selling, etc. Because of the high yield varieties now available, encouragement has been given for an increase in land use and productivity of the farmland itself.
We have the food basket vision. In the near future, what you find happening is that an average Nigerian farmer will have choices. It will be left for him to decide if he wants to meet his vitamin A needs by growing cassava alone or by growing cassava and maize. It will be left for him to choose if he needs to grow iron beans or grow zinc rice, right? So what we've done has been to look at the major staple crops consumed by a high proportion of rural households in Africa. And it is these crops that we are currently biofortifying.
About 100,000 households is targeted to have access to vitamin A cassava stems in the One Man, One Crop program, thereby increasing the production chain and reducing the number of people without access to vitamin A. 55,000 households have benefited from the program nationwide. Oyo State is targeted for Southwest, Akwa Ibom, and the South-South, Imo Southeast, and Benue North Central. In Oyo State, 25,000 households were targeted and 16,000 households have been reached.
About 16,000 households in the state at the moment. And this is what you find happening in all other states. So really, because of the awareness created on vitamin A, cassava, the demand for planting materials has been on the very high side. So the challenge we have at the moment has been, how to ensure that we meet demand with supply, right? And that we are strongly pursuing. And there's no doubt that by the end of this month, and latest by the mid of next month, we will have been able to reach out to 100,000 households in Nigeria with vitamin A cassava stems.
The Harvest Plus Pro Vitamin A Cassava project in Nigeria had made some giant strides. In 2012, partners in Nigeria multiplied 550 hectares of the vitamin A cassava varieties, from which 300,000 bundles of stems were made available to the aforementioned 100,000 farmers this year, 2013.
Farmers are going to make a lot of money because of the improved yield. And to the farmers, to date, I've distributed about 5,000 cuttings of this pack to farmers in rural community. Over 6,000 already registered. As soon as the rain sets in, we'll start the late planting season for dissemination. And again, to the state that are participating as at intervention, I see the farmers taking part in it, ready to make money, because other states are coming to buy into it. And I know this giveaway free. For now, it is free to all the farmers. I know this giveaway free will stop in another 1 year. Then the farmers who have this on their fields and take care of them will have to sell.
We are planning, to even ensure that we cultivate about 1 acre of land. We are the hectares of land of this cassava, because we know that it is proteinous, and don't forget, in this part of the southwest, we eat fufu and eba, and fufu and eba comes from cassava. And once that is our major consumption in terms of feeding, it means that it's going to improve. We are going to get all the supplement, the protein and what have you from it. And that is why we are planning to cultivate about 1 hectare of land, so that we can, to ensure that all families, have access to this cassava.
Considering that over 4.5 million households cultivate cassava in Nigeria, this number is rather low. But with intensified efforts of the partners, including the federal government of Nigeria, at accelerating commercial access to planting materials and logistics to reach the most vulnerable communities in the rural areas in a sustainable manner, better varieties will be developed to replace those currently in circulation, and thus vitamin A will be made available to the people for healthy growth through a nutritious natural source. And according to Howard Boyce, the international director of Harvest Plus, for an estimated 160 million Nigerians, there is no better way to deliver the nutrients that people need to be healthy than through more nutritious natural foods. The varieties are similar to the ones cassava farmers are already growing, except that the root flesh is yellow because of the valuable beta carotene it contains. The beta carotene is converted to vitamin A when eaten. Food Today visited communities around Southwest where the new varieties have been disseminated in Erua, Owu, Ojutai, and the IITA farm where the crops were bred.
I have to thank the Almighty God for the opportunity given to us by the introduction of vitamin A cassava rich that was introduced to us by SAWEC and Harvest Plus. In fact, I appreciate in no small measure that my local government has been chosen as one of the local government that they have brought this new breed of cassava.
Everything that we eat is cassava based, be it gari, fufu, and they lack the necessary essential vitamins. This staple food before now does not have vitamin A until this new breed of cassava brought to us by IITA and its partners. We are cassava planters and gari processors. We do not have any other job in Ojutai village other than gari processing. I am the village head of Ojutai village. We are given the necessary stems for planting about 6 months ago. They told us the usefulness of the leaf, that it is equivalent to nutrients derived from eating an egg. We found out that our children are no longer falling sick, and we, the elderly, also need care. Therefore, we planted more.
That's our program this week. Join us again.